This is the Business Acquisition Podcast with Tim Holloway.
If you're trying to sell your business, make sure you're trying to sell a business and not you. Right? Most times people build their business around them. A month ago, I was talking to someone who was considering selling his business. He was making 5 million in revenue. Very great business in construction. However, his business was valued at 0, only because the business was still tied to him. So his customers, his clients, are still transacting with him because he's built a long-term relationship with them, which most businesses are like that, right? You start a business via relationship and trust. But at some point, you need to break away from that, where people are using your products because of your products, not because of you. So you need to go from selling you to a phase which is, I have something running by itself and it doesn't depend on me. I can decide to go to Dubai or wherever for 6 months and the business will keep running, right? Now, in order to do that, there are 3 things you need to pay attention to. Number 1 is the product. Is it delivering value enough for people to want it, even without you? Enough for them to pay for it, to say, I want your service because of what you have built, because I know that the value proposition to me would still remain, right? So a product. Now, the second point is, do you have a process to execute the product? Is it that you market, then inquiries, you convert the customer, design the production process, and finally you deliver the product? The third is, now, do you have the people to run the process? Are there people that execute those processes? And where you start growing into a valuable business is where you have different people looking at different stages of that process. And as those stages get bigger, because you have more clients, then that's the department, and you have more people on that are focusing on more key sub-stages. So having people to run that process then completes what's a sellable business. Now, most times when people are ready to sell their business, they don't have this, right? They don't have a product that can deliver value without them. They don't have the process to deliver the product. They don't have the people to run the process. And especially when they get to retirement age, where they are really fatigued. It's a Friday, they can't wait to turn off their laptop, or it's a Monday and they dread the week. They're thinking, I can sell this business now, I'm making 6 million a year, making 8 million a year. You tell them, sorry, it's not sellable, because it's going to take them time, which sometimes it takes up to 3 years to get these 3 things in place, leading to the reason why 10 out of 11 businesses in the year do not sell. Imagine breaking the news saying, you're making a lot of money, but the product isn't scalable, meaning that the moment you leave, your clients are likely to leave because they're here because of you. You don't have a process to execute, and you don't have the people in place. And most times when people get to that stage, they probably just shut it down because they don't have the willpower to start putting all that together, or they don't even have the resources to employ people to come in to put these things in place. And then the icing on the cake is the financials. Your business is valued using the last 3 years data. If your revenue has been climbing up year on year, it's going to be an average of the last 3 years. If your revenue has been declining, it's going to be the last year revenue and EBITDA that will be used. Now, it doesn't mean you shouldn't have very strong future plans. In fact, it's required for enticing the right buyer, so that the buyer knows that there's something I can do to make my money back. Because every business have a peak point. That's why you see a lot of business start diversifying. So the biggest fear of a buyer is, am I buying this business at the peak point? And most times, when you see sellers who are below the retirement age, they're selling their businesses because they've got it to the peak point. And when the business gets to the peak point, the only way is down. So a buyer knows that as well. I don't want to buy a business when it's at its peak point, and then when I buy it, the business goes down and we're all in trouble, right? So your business plan gives the buyer that assurance that it's not at the peak point yet. Doesn't mean that it takes that into consideration when it comes to valuation. So if I'm considering 2 businesses, both the same numbers, but one has a good business plan of scaling, I would be more attracted to that than one that doesn't, because your story is, you've gotten to the peak point and I'm likely going to be in trouble. afterwards. So it makes sense when sellers talk about those business plans and get excited, but it shouldn't be for valuing their business. It should be for giving me the assurance that the business hasn't reached this peak point.